So I made a horror movie tier list because I thought it'd be fun. So, hey, let's make one. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. So at the very bottom, um, we have Scary Movie, which the first one, yes, it had a lot of really good plotting, but the sequels just did not have any plotting. They felt like just gag after gag. So yeah, that's why that's there. Critters, it felt like it took the series one really lighthearted, but it got more and more serious as the series went on, and so it just kind of flubbed. The Human Centipede, it has a similar problem with the first one. They took, they knew it was a little stupid, but the reboot just didn't have that, knowledge of how stupid it was. Final Destination, they started to use too many special effects. So yeah, Ouija just does. It's really good, but it just does not have enough entries to follow up with the rest of these. Tremors, I just thought it was stupid to begin with. Blair Witch Project is the same thing. Jurassic Park, well, yes, most of the movies are fairly bad. I also don't even consider it a horror movie, but it was put in here, so I put it in F. Jack Frost, it didn't have anything right. It wasn't quite silly enough. It wasn't quite dark enough. It wasn't quite good as, cheesy enough, and it wasn't quite bad enough. So it just flubs for me. Silent Hills, the first one was really good, but I think in the sequels, it tried to be too much of everything. A horror movie, a regular movie, a video game movie, everything just mixed up. Then we have Sharktopus, which you can kind of see in the bottom. And that one's just stupid to begin with, so, those get F for those reasons. Then we have Children of the Corn, an E, because it just tried to do, it lasted too long, had too many movies, and it just didn't know what to do in the sequels. Jaws, it just got cheesier and cheesier and cheesier till it just wasn't believable at all. Ginger Dead Man, the pacing is atrocious in these movies. I love the kills, I love how cheesy they are, but the pacing was just terrible. Carrie, I don't know, it just doesn't feel along the same regards as a lot of other horror movies. It's more psychological. I consider it more psychological thriller rather than horror, although I do see it is definitely horror in some elements. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just haven't seen enough to put it anywhere above E. Invisible Man, while I do respect it as a classic that created the horror movie genre staple as we know it, it does not quite have enough of a charm anymore compared to the modern reboot. Like Dracula or Frankenstein can still have the charm. This one just doesn't carry any charm for me. Then we have The Fly. It's a cult classic because it knows it's stupid, it takes itself fairly unseriously, and, pacing is good enough, and it's more of, you know, uh, it's more of the body horror genre. Oops, sorry about that. Then we have Resident Evil. That one, it got more of the horror elements really right, so it deserves at least a D, sorry. E was the last category. We're now in D. Alien, it just does not have enough good movies to be anywhere above D. Ghoulies, it has the same thing as Critters. First one was really good, and it didn't take itself too seriously. Then it started to take itself way too seriously. Pumpkinhead, just not enough entries to follow up with any of the ones that are above on the list. Dracula and Frankenstein, you can still watch any of them today and still have a little bit of enjoyment, knowing they're the classics. And there's enough of a thing where you can change to make something new and creative. But they still have respect because they are the original horror movies. Then we have C, which has Exorcist. Now this one, I think the reboots relied too heavily on CG, so they fell apart. The first one is really good, though. The Mummy, I think it just strayed too far away to be a horror movie, and it went more into action. Candyman, this one's another one that it just doesn't have enough entries, although the 2 entries it has are really good. Creepshow, this one's just really odd and different, and it's fun to see, but Leprechaun, it knew it was stupid, and then it started taking itself way too seriously, and then started flubbing with adding rappers and popular celebrities, and it just does not work. Goosebumps, it was more of a comedy than a horror, so it's down here for that reason. The Shining, its sequels are great and all that, but it does not have enough of the horror elements to carry it above, although it is a fantastic movie. The Toxic Avenger is more of a superhero type film than a horror film, although it has horror elements. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, it was really good. It knows it's cheesy. It knows it's stupid, and so it carries that throughout everything it's done. And it does not overstep its bounds, and it hasn't created too many movies to warrant being bad. But it's still not great compared to anything else, so it gets a B. Friday the 13th, just the amount of bad films we've had mixed with the good ones. Even the bad films do have some really nice kills in them, but overall, just very mediocre franchise. Though I still love it very dearly. Halloween, same thing as Friday the 13th, although it has even worse decisions because it started adding rappers and all that. No, Halloween didn't. That was Scream. My bad. Wait, was it Halloween? No, Halloween did it too. Holy cow. There's a lot of them that did it back in the 2000s, so yeah. But a lot of those ones just sank, and I've heard that the Halloween Kills movie is not all that great. I haven't seen it yet as of posting this. Then we have Hellraiser. The kills are amazing. The storyline is flubbed a little, but a lot of this stuff carries it to be a fairly decent franchise. My favorite's the one with Henry Cavill and the guy who voices Cyborg in the cartoons. That one was my favorite. Cyberworld, I think, is what that one's called. Then we have Return of the Living Dead, which was a really, really good, well, actually, it was mediocre, but it has enough of a good quality, and it was a fairly decent zombie movie to keep it floating above a lot of the other ones I've seen. Then we have Scream, which made, for like the 5 movies, the ones that are numbered, really good. But any of them that aren't just kind of flubbed for me. Overall, it's not all that great of a franchise, but it has good enough qualities, and it's cheesy enough, and it knows where to go. On the TV side, did really well, although the mask sucked. But it's still pretty good, so it gets a B. Then we have The Thing, which is a staple of body horror, so, you gotta go with that one. The Lost Boys, where it's different enough, but it still has enough horror elements to, be interesting and worth the watch for the trilogy, I think. Then we have Killjoy. It knew it was silly, stupid, and it was Goosebumps, but it had enough of the adult edge to keep it up the top, and it's fun. It's definitely got a Goosebumps storyteller kind of feel, and it's not as silly as the actual Goosebumps movie. It kind of has a similar thing going. A lot of the clown movies do, to be honest. Although the first reboot was a little more serious, which was nice, and was a definitely good change of pace, but I like the funhouse scenes, and the sequel does deliver. Then there's The Purge, which the first movie isn't all that great, but the sequels that went into more of the political commentary, and a lot of that, it creates a lot of discussion, so if you have more discussionary friends, it's quite the enjoyable film to watch with them. Silence of the Lambs, it has a lot of really good mysterious horror. The cannibalism, all that's just a tip of the iceberg. It has a lot more unsettling feelings to it. Darkman, it's kind of like a superhero movie, but it has enough darkness, and no pun intended, an edge to it that it stands as a really good horror movie, and it has great Liam Neeson stuff. I didn't hear of it for a long while, and they don't get many releases of it, but it's not too hard to find. Gremlins, I've heard they're making a third one, and the first two are really... The first one is scary. Like, it still wigs me out to this day when something fluffy is bubbling. That, ooh, God. But the creatures are scary, but they're also pretty funny. They know how to balance everything really well in these movies, and I do want a third, desperately. Alien vs. Predator. Both of these were terrific. First one had had really good human characters that could carry it, and then the second one went really dark, which is nice. We got to see more of the edge put in the Predator side of the franchise, because a lot of the Alien stuff is more just for the showmanship of it. Then, then we have in the S rank we have Evil Dead because the series was amazing, and then the first one, it's really good. Like it's a really good scary movie. Although I love the ones where he's more cheesy, Bruce Campbell, and it's one of the few movies where we have a horror movie protagonist who's the main character and is a good guy, which is nice. Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I loved this franchise. Even the reboot was pretty mediocre, but a lot of it was really fun. And even when it was cheesy, it was so cheesy you could laugh at it. Blade, it has a lot of really good horror elements when you stop to think about it. And I love Marvel. So to see something Marvel horror other than Hellstrom, which is a really good show, but they didn't have have that on here. It's surprisingly really good. Child's Play, I know you can barely see it, and same with Night of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. Child's Play, it's still continuing, and the TV show is phenomenal from what I've seen. And the only bad movie I can think of was Seed. You could argue Bride was bad too, but it still had a fairly decent handful of elements. And heck, even the discussion of bringing the kid back from the Seed, it sounds really interesting to me. I'd like to see what they would do with the kid. Then there's Night of the Living Dead, which is the first like zombie movie, and it's the template for most zombies out there. So you have to respect it just for being a template for zombies. There's Saw, which has really good thriller elements, thriller horror mysteries elements, and it keeps you on your toes. And the traps are really, really brutal traps. This franchise gets about the same amount of brutalness. I don't even think that's a real word, but still, as the Pinhead franchise. I forget what it's called. I'd have to scroll down, but I don't want to stall you guys with that. Then there's Sharknado, which it knows it's stupid. It's gotten so many movies and they're just playing up how stupid it is that they have this many movies at this point. But for the most part, what I've heard, it's a franchise that has stopped, which they knew their limits. And if they came out with another one, it might have sunk down to maybe B, but instead of S. But for now, it's stupid, but it knows it is. Happy Death Day. This one's another one that has enough sass, and it has enough of it has two protagonists, one being horror, one being hero, which are really nice, and you can follow them really easily, which is fun. I like a protagonist in a horror movie which you can follow really well. Then there is Zombieland, which is an amazing horror comedy and another really good zombie movie. If you want a template for a comedic zombie movie, Zombieland's probably the one to go with. Same with if you want a ghost movie that's comedic, go with Ghostbusters. Honestly, at this point, Ghostbusters is really good. I'm still excited for Afterlife. Even though the female one isn't all that great, I do think some of the humor in it was still pretty good. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. I can at least give it that much. Then there's Predator. When a Predator does really well, the hunting stuff, the hunting stuff, and I almost want to say tribalism of the predator species is really nice. The pack of predator species, there we go, that's the right word, that's better. It's more of animalistic nature rather than, spiritual nature. Yeah, it's really good when they are able to do that, and so for that reason, I also find most of the movies really good. Predator 1 through 3 were really entertaining. I haven't seen a lot of newer ones as well, so that might taint my view, but I don't know. From what I've seen of Predator, it's a fairly decent franchise.